In the course of my work as a sexuality educator and as a trainer on gender and abuse awareness, I've often been asked this question: how difficult was it for you as a Muslim woman to talk about the issues that are often considered a no go zone for most women, let alone Muslim women? And my response to that is that the structures of power that decide or dictate gender norms of whether a woman, be it a Muslim woman or a Hindu woman or any other woman, have very little to do with religion per se, but a lot to do with position, power, and privilege. So, you know, I am a privileged Muslim woman who has had the privileges of education, of money, of support from family and friends. And therefore, I was able to break the constraints that often limit women to be who they want to be and to talk about or work in areas that are often considered taboo. So, for me, as a Muslim woman, being Muslim and doing the work that I do were not so difficult. I was able to break out of an emotionally and sexually abusive relationship because I had the privilege and the support to do so. Any other woman, be it a Muslim woman or a Hindu woman who did not have the position of privilege, would have probably found it more difficult to do the things that I did, not because of the fact that she belonged to a certain religion, but because of power and privilege and the background that she belonged to. So, to give you an example of how people often conflate religion with privilege and power, I'd like to sort of talk about the triple talaq law, for example. So nowhere in the Quran does it say that triple talaq is okay. It's if anything else, talaq or instant talaq is prohibited. It's not even mentioned anywhere in the Quran, which is what Muslims consider to be the law as far as daily life is considered. But how something that does not even exist in religion became so powerful that it dictated the lives of millions of Muslim women in India and in the subcontinent has very little to do with religion, but everything to do with power. And the power, especially that resides in the hands of men who make the rules. In this case, the rule boards that make rules for Muslims in India or anywhere else. So for us to be able to understand how our gender is holding back, we also need to understand the structures through which gender norms work. So, my idea of personal activism is understanding internally and then breaking externally the norms which have held me back. What is your type of activism? Do you, as a human being, question the norms that have been given to you that boys and men have more power over women, and often we do not even unconsciously understand that this is not how things should be, and we go on living in conditions which limit us, which hurt us, which are torturous to us because we think that those things are normal, that this is how things should be. In the same way, men externalize and use power to exert over women, over those weaker than them, and that power becomes stronger and stronger with privilege, with money, with position, with an upper caste, irrespective of whether that man is a Hindu or a Muslim. So they understand this and behave like this because they've been brought up with this whole, they've been socialized into behaving a certain way, into believing that they can get away with this. So how do you break these norms? As somebody who's watching this, if you have the privilege of education, if you have the privilege of self-awareness, if you have the privilege of self-examination, which a lot of people do not have, and it is a privilege, trust you me, question everything that has been handed down to you as an absolute and break those things in your own little circle. For example, if you're a mother, teach your boys to understand that they cannot use the power which society has given them to hurt somebody, especially women and those weaker than them. If you're a man and if you're a father, understand that the conditions and the social norms and the man box that you've been brought in is not an absolute. It is an idea that all of us fall for, and it is a very dangerous idea that perpetuates violence, especially gendered violence against women, against children, against everybody who falls under the or falls in a minority. So, I mean, that is my personal activism. What is yours? Recognize yours, choose yours, and do it. Live that life, irrespective of whether you're Muslim, you're Hindu, you're a man or a woman, and what power you have. Examine the limitations that you thought were absolute. Break them, step out of them. That can be our daily activism. We cannot change the laws of this country alone. We cannot go, raise our voices too much, because that also puts us in danger, as we've very recently seen. So how do you then operate in this very limited, very sort of constricted area? You work within yourself and you work in your immediate circle. That is how I understand my activism. How do you understand yours?